A small pair of tweezers and a steady hand, this is where it all starts. One by one, tiny dead eggs are plucked from the water, ensuring thousands of others stay a healthy, peachy orange. It's important work these volunteers are more than happy to do, work Mother Nature would likely appreciate.
When they finally absorb their yolk sac, they're about a half a gram.
At the Goldstream Hatchery in Langford, about a month goes by before the eggs turn into sac fry.
You can see their yolk sac. That's what's sustaining them.
Then, more than 2 years after the eggs are laid, they look like this. These coho only weigh about 12 grams, but in about 3 months they'll be big enough to be released into the river. Eventually, a few will survive and make it back to spawn before the great story of salmon survival starts all over again.
The West Coast approach to salmon is one of viewing it as an iconic symbol of our West Coast experience. And I think if you can see a healthy returning salmon population to your watershed, then you know that you're in good shape.
But in some urban areas of the South Island, the creeks and streams where salmon spend their early days are playing catch-up. At Douglas Creek in Mount Doug Park, decades of development in the area has caused nutrients in the water to disappear, making it pretty tough for salmon to survive.
Many decades ago, the watershed, which is Gordon Head in this case, was farmland or forest land. And when it rained, the water soaked into the ground, and that and the amount of water in the creek was in harmony.
But with more streets, rooftops, and parking lots, and fewer natural spaces, the water had nowhere to go.
So what would happen when we get a rainstorm is we get a terrific surge of water, maybe 100 times the normal level. And so what happened then with that surge is that it washed out all the gravel spawning beds, it eroded the creek and so forth.
For the past 20 or so years, volunteers have been helping to restore Douglas Creek. They've been measuring water quality and temperature, helping to restore the eroded banks. And for the past 7 years, they've actually been putting dead salmon back into the creek.
What we're trying to do is actually mimic nature. The stream is somewhat sterile, and we don't have the proper nutrients and food for the salmon that have actually spawned here.
And that's where, well, these dead salmon come in. Peter McCulley at the Goldstream Hatchery says salmon have lots of nutrients in them, and when they die, those nutrients go back into what he calls the food web.
In streams that no longer have large numbers of salmon, we're trying to help jumpstart our efforts by putting those nutrients back in.
And it seems, at least on a small scale, their work is paying off. Daryl Wick says in the past 10 years or so, small numbers of salmon have returned to Douglas Creek every year but one.
What we want is that it's self-sustaining, so we don't have to impose on the hatchery at Goldstream. And everything that indicates that that's going to happen, but it just takes time.
And Peter McCulley says because it's in the middle of an urban area, Douglas Creek is always going to face challenges, but things are getting better.
What has been achieved there is that the municipality is managing their stormwater a lot more effectively. People's awareness has been increased that live around the watershed. No longer are they inadvertently putting things into the storm drains that wind up in the water.
And the day may come when salmon naturally return to the creek year after year, as Mother Nature returns the favor. In Saanich, I'm Nikki Ewanyshyn.